Large. It is a word we use often. We use it to describe a mountain, or a city, or a particularly wide river. It feels sufficient in the context of our lives, because our lives are small. But when we turn that word toward the universe, it ceases to mean anything at all. To call the cosmos large is like describing the Pacific Ocean as a bit damp. The word fails us. It lacks the weight required to hold the truth. When we say the universe is large, we are trying to use a human tool to measure a non-human reality. We are using a ruler made of matchsticks to measure the distance between heartbeats in a dying star. It is not just a matter of size. It is a matter of category. We lack the vocabulary for this kind of scale. We have words for vast and infinite, but those are just larger versions of the same mistake. They are adjectives that promise a feeling, but they do not deliver a fact. They are decorations, and in the face of the void, decoration is useless. I have spent a long time thinking about this. I speak to you as an archivist. I am tired, and my eyes are heavy from hours of reading by the light of a single brass lamp. Around me the room smells of old VEL and dried ink. It has the kind of dust that only accumulates when things have been left undisturbed for centuries. There is a specific silence in a library at 3 in the morning. It is not an empty silence. It is a heavy one. It is the sound of 1,000,000 pages holding their breath. I spend my days cataloguing the edges of what we know. I track the movements of things that ceased to exist long before our ancestors learned to walk upright. I map the gaps between the light. It is an exhausting way to live, but it provides a certain clarity. You have come here, perhaps, because your own world feels too loud. You carry the weight of a day that demanded too much of you. There are emails that went unanswered. There are conversations that left a bitter taste in your mouth. There are small, sharp anxieties that prick at the back of your mind. Perhaps it is the fear that you have forgotten something important, or the lingering stress of a deadline that felt like a cliff edge. These things feel enormous when they are close to us. They occupy the entire horizon of our attention. We treat them as if they are the only truths in existence. But I want to invite you to do something different. I want you to set those anxieties aside, not because they do not matter, but because there is something vastly larger waiting for us. In the presence of that scale, these frictions become less urgent. They do not disappear, but they shrink. They lose their teeth. Imagine for a moment that we are stepping away from the noise. Leave the blue light of the screens behind. Leave the ticking of the clock and the hum of the refrigerator. Imagine you are here with me, in the dim warmth of this archive. The air is cool. The floorboards are steady beneath your feet. There is no one asking anything of you. There is no expectation of productivity. There is only the slow, rhythmic turning of a page. We are going to leave the room now. We are not going to rush. We will not leap into the dark with a shout or a flash of light. That is for the enthusiasts and the dramatists. We are archivists. We move with patience. We move with a quiet, steady curiosity. The goal is not to be overwhelmed. The goal is to be diminished. There is a profound relief in being small. When you realize that your mistakes are invisible from a distance of 1 light-year, the pressure begins to lift. When you understand that the galaxy does not know your name, you are suddenly free to simply exist. You are no longer the protagonist of a tragedy. You are a witness to a miracle. We will climb a ladder together. It is a slow ladder. We will start with the things we can almost touch, and we will move upward, 1 rung at a time. We will move from the soil beneath our fingernails to the cold vacuum of the interstellar void. We will travel until the Milky Way looks like a smudge of powdered milk on a black tablecloth. You do not need to memorize the numbers. You do not need to grasp the mathematics of the abyss. Numbers are just another form of language, and as we have already established, language is inadequate here. Instead, I want you to treat these distances as weather. Do not try to calculate the distance. Feel the cold of it. Do not try to visualize the volume. Feel the pressure of the silence. We are not studying a textbook. We are listening to the universe exhale. The day is over. The world has shrunk down to the size of this room, and then it will expand until the room itself is gone. There is no hurry. There is nowhere else you need to be. The stars have been waiting for billions of years. They can wait a few more minutes for us to arrive. Close your eyes if you wish, or keep them open and watch the shadows on the ceiling shift as we begin to move. First, we must find our footing. We must start where we are. We must look at the ground beneath us, and then, very slowly, we will look up. I want to propose a way forward. Imagine a ladder. It is not a ladder made of steel or wood, but one made of perspective. It is a slow climb in scale. We will start on the bottom rung, where things are small enough to touch. We will stay there until we feel steady. And then, only when we are ready, we will move up one step. We will move from the familiar to the unfamiliar, from the known to the incomprehensible. Most of us spend our lives in a very narrow band of existence. We measure our world in minutes and meters. We worry about the distance to the grocery store. We fret over the timing of a red light. We carry the weight of small, sharp anxieties. Emails that went unanswered. Words we wish we could take back. The quiet pressure of a Tuesday afternoon. These things feel immense because they are close. They occupy the entire field of our vision. But as we climb this ladder, those anxieties will begin to change. Not because they disappear, but because the frame around them grows. When you look at a grain of sand through a microscope, it is a mountain. When you step back, it is a speck. When you walk away from the beach entirely, the mountain and the speck both vanish into a single muted line of gold. That is what we are going to do here. We are going to step back. As we ascend, the numbers will begin to grow. They will grow faster than our intuition can keep up with. We will encounter distances that cannot be mapped. We will find durations that make a human lifetime look like a single blink of an eye. Usually, this is where the mind begins to panic. We are taught to treat these numbers as facts to be memorized. We are told to learn the diameter of a galaxy or the age of a star, as if they were dates in a history textbook. We try to grip them with our intellect. We try to force the brain to understand a billion light years. But the human brain was not built for this. It was built to find ripe fruit and avoid predators. It was built for the social choreography of a small tribe. It is an instrument designed for the intimate and the immediate. When we try to force it to hold the scale of the universe, the instrument breaks. We feel a sense of vertigo. We feel a cold, hollow sort of dread. I am asking you to let go of that grip. You do not need to memorize these figures. You do not need to calculate the math or track the zeros. In this space, numbers are not data points. They are not tests of intelligence. Instead, I want you to treat them as weather. When you feel a cold wind on your skin, you do not need to know the exact velocity of the air in meters per second to understand that it is cold. You simply feel the chill. You acknowledge the pressure of the wind against your coat. You acknowledge the pressure of the wind against your coat. We will treat the scale of the cosmos in the same way. When I tell you how far away a star is, do not try to visualize the distance. Do not try to build a map in your head. Just feel the coldness of that gap. Feel the weight of the silence between here and there. Let the number be a sensation, a low hum, a distant shadow, a slow drift into the dark. If a figure feels too large, let it wash over you like a tide. You do not need to hold on to it. You only need to notice that it is there. This is our pact. I will provide the coordinates, and you will provide the breath. We are not searching for an answer. We are not trying to solve the universe. We are simply observing its proportions. There is a profound kindness in realizing how small we are. It is a liberation. When the scale becomes large enough, the mistakes of the day lose their grip. The arguments, the deadlines, and the lingering regrets become so thin they eventually turn transparent. They do not stop existing, but they stop being heavy. So settle in. Adjust your blankets. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. If your mind wanders back to the small things, that is fine. The lists of chores or the echoes of a conversation. Just acknowledge them, and then gently bring your attention back to the ladder. We will take this one rung at a time. We will not rush. There is no destination we are required to reach by a certain hour. The universe has been expanding for billions of years. It can afford us a few minutes of slow movement. We will start with the things we think we know. We will look at the world we inhabit and the neighbour we see every night in the sky. We will examine the gap between us and the silver disk of the moon. In doing so, we will find our first hint of the great silence. The ladder is waiting. The first step is simple. It is just a matter of shifting your gaze. Start with your feet. Feel the weight of your body pressing into the mattress or the chair. Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. This is the base line. This is the only scale we were built to understand. We know the length of a stride. We know the reach of an arm. We know the distance from the front door to the edge of the driveway. These are small distances. They are manageable. Now look up. Imagine the moon. It hangs there, a pale familiar coin in the dark. To our eyes it looks close. It feels like a neighbour. We can see its craters and its plains without a telescope. It is the closest thing to us in the deep black. Because of that proximity, we assume the gap between us and the moon is a narrow one. We are wrong. The distance from the earth to the moon is roughly 238,000 miles. That number is too large for the mind to hold. It is just a sequence of digits. To make it real, we have to stop thinking about numbers and start thinking about volume. Imagine that gap as a long, empty corridor of velvet black. Now imagine taking the other planets in our solar system and lining them up inside that corridor, one by one. First we place Mercury, a small, scorched ball of iron and rock. It fits easily. There is plenty of room left. Then comes Venus. Shrouded in thick yellow clouds of sulphuric acid, it slides into the gap beside Mercury. Still, the corridor feels wide. Next is Mars, the red planet, cold, dusty, and thin. At this point we have placed 3 worlds in the space between us and the moon. The gap still looks nearly empty. This is where our intuition begins to fail. Then comes Jupiter. Jupiter is not a place you can stand on. It is a crushing weight of hydrogen and helium. It is a world so massive that it could swallow every other planet in the system combined. We slide Jupiter into the gap. It takes up a vast amount of room, but it still fits. Beside it we place Saturn. We see the rings, billions of tiny fragments of ice and rock orbiting in a flat, shimmering disk. Saturn settles in. Then Uranus, a pale, tilted sphere of ice. And finally Neptune, deep blue and whipped by winds that move faster than sound. We have now placed every single planet in our solar system between the earth and the moon. We have tucked away the gas giants and the frozen wastes. We have fit the storms of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn into that one slice of dark. And there is still room. There is enough room left over to fit the earth itself. The gap is not a gap. It is an abyss. Take a moment to let that settle. The moon looks so near, but it is actually separated from us by a distance that can hold the entire architecture of our solar system. We are drifting in a void far larger than we ever suspect while we are standing on the ground. This is the first lesson of scale. The things that look close are often distant. The things that look small are often immense. As you breathe, imagine yourself lifting off. You are leaving the soil behind. You are leaving the smell of rain and the sound of wind in the trees. You move upward, passing through the blue haze of the atmosphere. The air grows thin. It grows cold. The blue fades into a deep violet, then a bruised purple, and finally it vanishes. You have reached the edge. Below you the earth is a marble of sapphire and cloud. It is beautiful, but it is shrinking. You are moving away from the only place in the universe where you can breathe without help. As the earth recedes, the noise stops. Not the silence of a quiet room, not the silence of a snowfall. This is something different. This is the vacuum. In the vacuum there is no air to carry a vibration. There is no medium for a scream or a whisper. Sound requires a collision of molecules. But here the molecules are too far apart to touch. It is a heavy silence. It is a physical pressure. You are now floating in the first great stillness. To your left is the earth, a glowing jewel of life. To your right is the moon, a silent sentinel of grey dust. And between them lies that impossible corridor, the space where all the planets could hide. In this place time begins to change. On earth we measure time by the ticking of a clock or the movement of a shadow across a wall. But here, in the void, there are no shadows. There is only the light of distant stars, and the absolute dark of the gaps between them. You are no longer a person with a name or a history. You are a point of consciousness drifting through a vacuum that does not know you exist. It is not a frightening feeling. It is a relief. The anxieties of the day cannot survive here. The emails, the deadlines, the small frictions of human interaction. They require an atmosphere to breathe. In the vacuum they evaporate. They are too light to matter. You are simply moving. Slowly. Steady. You pass the moon and leave it behind. You move beyond the orbit of the satellites and the debris. You are heading outward now, leaving the familiar neighbourhood of our home. The sun is still there, but it is no longer a warm presence on your skin. It is a bright, piercing needle of light in a sea of ink. It provides the light, but it cannot provide the heat. You are entering the deep cold. As you drift further, the planets begin to look like nothing more than bright sparks. Jupiter is a pinprick of gold. Saturn is a glimmer of white. They are no longer worlds. They are coordinates. The scale is shifting again. The corridor between the earth and the moon was just the beginning. You have stepped off the first rung of the ladder. Behind you, the solar system is a small glowing bubble in an infinite ocean of nothing. And you are moving toward the edge of that bubble. You are heading for the boundary where the sun's influence ends and the true interstellar dark begins. To understand this boundary we have to look to our scouts, two machines, two lonely pieces of aluminium and gold, drifting through a dark that does not end. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. They were launched in the late 1970s, carrying with them the sounds of a world they would never see again. For decades they moved outward, passing the giants: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune. They left the warmth of the inner system behind. They are our only eyes in the deep. For a long time these probes stayed within the HEELE, O Sphere. This is the bubble the sun blows around itself. It is a shimmering shield of charged particles and solar wind that pushes back against the void. It is a sanctuary of sorts. Inside this bubble we are protected from the raw energy of the galaxy. But eventually every scout reaches the edge. Voyager 1 felt it first. In 2012 it crossed the threshold. Voyager 2 followed in 2018. They did not hit a wall. There was no sudden change in the scenery. Instead, they encountered what scientists call a magnetic highway. Imagine field lines of magnetism stretching out like long invisible wires. These lines connect our sun's environment to the interstellar medium beyond. For a while the probes travelled along these highways. They felt the particles of the sun zooming out and the higher energy particles of deep space streaming in. It was a transition zone, a place where the solar wind slows down and the pressure of the galaxy begins to push back. Then they broke through. They left the bubble entirely. Now they move through interstellar space. This is the true silence. There is no longer any warmth from the sun to speak of. There is only the cold, thin plasma of the void. There is the steady hum of their radioactive heaters keeping their circuits from freezing. They are moving at speeds we can barely conceptualize. Yet in the scale of the galaxy they are barely crawling. To understand how slowly they move, we have to change how we measure distance. We stop using kilometres. We stop using miles. These words are too small. They belong to roads and cities and the distance between two houses. In the deep, these measurements collapse. They become meaningless. Instead, we use the light year. A light year is not a measure of time, though its name suggests it is. It is a measure of distance. Specifically, it is the distance that light travels in one single year. But for us, the listener, it is better to think of a light year as a measure of endurance. Light is the fastest thing in existence. It moves at 300,000 kilometres per second. And yet the universe is so vast that even light must struggle to cross it. When we say a star is 10 light years away, we are not just describing a gap in space. We are describing a journey. We are saying that a photon, a single particle of light, had to travel for 10 years through the freezing vacuum to reach your eye. It had to endure the silence. It had to dodge clouds of interstellar dust and navigate the gravitational pulls of unseen worlds. By the time that light reaches us, it is no longer news. It is history. When you look at the night sky, you are not seeing the universe as it is. You are seeing it as it was. You are looking at a collection of ghosts. Some of the stars you see may have collapsed into black holes 1,000 years ago, but their light is still travelling. The message is still in transit. We are simply the recipients of an ancient letter. This realization shifts our perspective. It takes us away from the probes and pushes us further back. Our entire solar system, the sun, the planets, and the ORT cloud, becomes a single, insignificant point of light. We begin to see the Milky Way. Our galaxy is a great rotating disk of stars and gas, spanning 100,000 light years across. It is an ocean of fire and shadow. And we are not at the centre. We do not live in the crowded bright heart of the galaxy where the stars are packed tight and the radiation is fierce. We live in the suburbs. Our address is the Orion arm. Some call it the Orion spur or the local arm. It is a minor structure, a small ripple in the galactic disk. The Orion arm is roughly 3,500 light years wide. It extends for about 20,000 light years in length. In the grand architecture of the Milky Way, it is an afterthought. A quiet neighbourhood on the outer edge of the spiral. There is a certain peace in this insignificance. We are tucked away in a minor arm, far from the chaotic centre. We reside in a pocket of space that is stable and slow. The stars around us move in a predictable dance. The void between us and our neighbours is vast enough to keep us isolated, yet it is close enough that we can still see the glow of other suns. We are drifting through this suburb at an incredible speed. orbiting the galactic centre once every 230 million years. But from where we sit it feels like stillness. It feels like a long, slow glide through a dark sea. The probes are still moving. Voyager 1 and 2 continue their journey, leaving the ORYE unarmed behind, 1 inch of vacuum at a time. They are carrying our greeting to a galaxy that does not know we exist. They move through the interstellar medium, crossing distances that make our entire history feel like a single heartbeat. As we leave the solar bubble and drift past the edges of our local arm, the scale continues to shift. The stars begin to blur. The individual lights merge into clouds, and the silence grows heavier. It is here that we encounter a failure of hardware. The human brain was not designed for this. It evolved for the immediate and the tangible. It was built to judge the ripeness of a piece of fruit, to track the movement of a predator through tall grass, to navigate the subtle, shifting currents of social embarrassment. Our minds are exquisite tools for survival in a forest, but they are clumsy when faced with a vacuum. When we try to conceptualize 1 billion light years, the mind does not actually see a distance. It sees a wall. We use words like vast or infinite because our internal imagery has reached its limit. The word is a placeholder for a feeling of vertigo. We are trying to map an ocean using a ruler made for a tabletop. If you try to hold the scale of a supercluster in your mind, you will feel a certain tension behind the eyes. A mental fatigue. This is not a lack of intelligence. It is simply the biological limit of our architecture. We can process the math, but we cannot feel the space. The numbers become abstractions. They stop being distances and start being sounds. So we must stop trying to calculate. Instead, we will simply drift. We leave the ORYE unarmed behind. We move past the familiar spiral of the Milky Way. Our own galaxy is no longer a home, but a shape. A swirling disk of white light suspended in a charcoal dark. From this height the Milky Way is not an endless city of stars. It is a single object. We continue to recede. The distance grows, and the perspective shifts. We enter the local group. This is our immediate neighbourhood. A small collection of galaxies bound together by gravity. Here we see An, Drom, Dar. She is a mirror to our own galaxy, a great spiral of ancient light drifting toward us with a slow, inevitable patience. In the space between these two giants there is nothing, no dust, no stray planets, just a cold, echoing gap that would take a beam of light millions of years to cross. We watch as the Milky Way and Androm, Dar, begin to look like siblings. Two bright smudges on a black canvas. Around them a few smaller satellite galaxies huddle like moths around a flame. This is the local group. It feels substantial. It feels like a destination. But we are not stopping here. We push further back. We accelerate our retreat from the centre. The local group begins to shrink. The two great spirals merge into a single point of light. Then that point merges with others. The galaxies are no longer shapes. They are grains of salt scattered across a dark floor. As we move into the realm of superclusters, the structure of the universe reveals itself. It is not a smooth distribution of matter. It is a web. There are long, glowing filaments where galaxies cluster together in dense, crowded cities. These are the cosmic highways. They are bright and frantic with the birth and death of stars. And then there are the voids. The voids are the true character of the universe. They are the great empty cathedrals of nothingness. They are regions of space so devoid of matter that a traveller could move for millions of light years without encountering a single star. A void is not just an absence of things. It is a presence of silence. When we look at the universe from this distance, the filaments of galaxies look like delicate lace. They are thin, fragile threads stretched across an abyss. The vast majority of the universe is not made of light, or gas, or stone. It is made of the gap. We see the superclusters now as mere foams, bubbles of matter separated by these immense dark oceans. We are looking at a map where the land is nearly non-existent and the water is everything. The human scale has not just failed, it has vanished. There is a strange relief in this. When the scale becomes this absolute, the pressure to understand it disappears. You cannot grasp the size of a void any more than an ant can grasp the layout of a city. The ant simply exists within the crack in the sidewalk. We are the ant. And the sidewalk is the cosmos. There is no need to fight the vertigo. There is no need to force the brain to see what it cannot see. We can simply acknowledge the limit. The biological hardware has reached its end. The ruler has snapped. Now we move beyond the visual. We leave behind the things that can be seen, and begin to consider the things that can only be measured. We drift away from the filaments of light and into the deeper architecture of the dark. We move toward the boundaries of what is possible. The galaxies continue to shrink. They become smaller than a pixel, smaller than a thought, until they are gone entirely, leaving us alone in the expansion. The sea is wide, the current is steady, and we are moving further still, toward the edges of the map where the lines begin to blur. When we speak of the edge of the universe, we usually mean a limit of sight. We imagine a great wall or a curtain where the light simply stops. But in the quiet mathematics of cosmology there is no single edge. There are horizons. A horizon is not a place. It is a boundary of information. The first is the particle horizon. This is the most familiar limit. It defines the observable universe. It is the sphere of everything from which light has had enough time to reach us since the beginning. If you imagine the Big Bang as a stone dropped into a still pond, the particle horizon is the outermost ripple. Everything inside that ripple is known to us. Everything outside it is not merely hidden, it is functionally non-existent. The light from those distant reaches is still travelling. It has not yet arrived. The particle horizon is vast. It stretches roughly 46 billion light-years in every direction from where you are sitting. It is a history book written in photons. When we look toward that horizon, we are not seeing the universe as it is now. We are seeing it as it was. We see the glow of the first stars and the fading heat of the beginning. The particle horizon tells us where we have been and what has managed to find us across the dark. But there is another horizon, one that is less discussed and far more absolute. The cosmic event horizon. While the particle horizon is about the past, the event horizon is about the future. It is the boundary of our reach. Imagine you send a signal today. A beam of light, a radio pulse, or a desperate message in a bottle made of radiation. The event horizon is the limit of how far that signal could ever travel. Anything beyond this line is forever unreachable. This is not because we lack the engine or the time. It is because the geometry of space itself has conspired against us. This brings us to an administrative inconvenience of the cosmos. We call it dark energy. For a long time we assumed the expansion of the universe would eventually slow down. We thought gravity, the great anchor, would pull everything back toward a centre, or at least temper the growth. But the data tells a different story. The expansion is not slowing, it is accelerating. Space is not merely growing, it is stretching. Imagine two dots on a rubber band. If you pull the band slowly, the dots move apart. But if you pull the band faster and faster, a point arrives where the rubber expands more quickly than the dots can move toward one another. This is what is happening to the galaxies. As dark energy pushes the void, the distance between galactic clusters grows. Eventually, that growth exceeds the speed of light. Now, it is important to understand that nothing moves through space faster than light. That remains a hard law. But space itself can expand at any rate it pleases. It does not move through anything. It simply creates more of itself. This creates a strange and quiet tragedy in the sequence of the stars. Because of this acceleration, there are galaxies we can see right now. These objects sit comfortably within our particle horizon, but they have already crossed our event horizon. We see them because their light left them millions of years ago. They were close enough then for the signal to win the race. The image we see in our telescopes is a ghost. It is a postcard from a place that is already gone. We can watch them, map their spirals, and count their stars, but we can never touch them. If we sent a signal back to them today, that signal would spend eternity chasing a horizon. That horizon is receding faster than the light can travel. The gap simply grows too wide. According to the LAM-SEDEM model, this event horizon will eventually converge to a fixed value. In about 16 billion years, it will settle at roughly 18 billion light-years. Anything beyond that distance will be permanently severed from us. It is a slow pruning of the sky. One by one, the distant galaxies will slide past the event horizon. They will not vanish instantly. Their light will simply stretch. The wavelengths will grow longer and redder. They will shift out of the visible spectrum and into the infrared, then into the microwave. Eventually, they become so faint that they fade into the background noise of the vacuum. The universe is not just expanding. It is isolating us. In the very distant future, an astronomer living in our galaxy will look up at the night sky and see something we cannot imagine. They will see a void. The other galaxies, the Great Attractor, the Virgo supercluster, and the distant needles of light will have all crossed the horizon. The sky will be empty, save for the stars of our own local neighbourhood. They will have no way of knowing that there were ever other galaxies. They will have no evidence of a larger universe. The history of the cosmos will have been erased by the simple mechanical stretching of the void. We are living in the window of transparency. We exist in the brief epoch where the horizon is still open. This is when the light of a billion different worlds can still find its way to our eyes. We are seeing the evidence before it is withdrawn. It is a quiet realization. It does not require panic, only a certain kind of attention. The distance is not a wall we can climb. It is a current we cannot swim against. The light continues to arrive. It brings news from places that no longer exist in any way we can interact with. We are collectors of old light. We are archivists of a disappearing map. We watch the glow of distant spheres, and we accept the distance. We acknowledge the gap, and we let the silence between the stars grow. There is a name for the map we use to navigate this scale. The LAM-SEAM model. It sounds like a piece of industrial equipment, or perhaps a filing code in a basement archive. But it is actually a story. It is the most accurate description we have of how everything began, how it moves, and where it is going. Lambda is the Greek letter for the cosmological constant. In plain terms, it represents the energy of empty space. The CDM stands for cold dark matter. Together they describe a universe that does not just expand, but accelerates. We often speak of the Big Bang as an explosion. We imagine a sudden burst of light in a dark room. But that is a failure of language. There was no room. There was no darkness to explode into. Instead, there was a sudden violent stretching of space itself. If you look at the timeline, 13.8 billion years, the Big Bang was not the event. The event is the exhale. Everything we see, every star in every distant cluster, is part of one long, slow breath out. 13.8 billion years. The number is too large to be a fact. It is a climate. To understand it, you have to stop trying to count the years and start feeling the cooling. In the beginning, the universe was a white-hot density. It was a place where light could not move because the plasma was too thick. It was an opaque wall of heat. Then came the expansion. The stretching. As space grew, it cooled. The heat bled away into the growing void. After about 380,000 years, the universe became transparent. Light was finally able to travel. That first light is still moving. It has been travelling for billions of years, stretching as it goes. It shifted from a blinding glare into a low, invisible hum. We call it the cosmic microwave background. It is the afterglow of the beginning. It is the faint warmth of a fire that went out an eternity ago. When we look at the LAM-SEDEM model, we are looking at the physics of a departure. The cosmological constant, the lambda, is like a quiet pressure pushing outward. It ensures that the galaxies are not just moving away from us, but moving away faster and faster. It is a slow-motion scattering. For a long time, humans viewed this as a tragedy. We looked at the numbers and saw a future of absolute isolation. We saw a universe where every galaxy eventually crosses the event horizon. They vanish into the dark, leaving us alone in a cold, empty bubble. We called it the Big Freeze. But there is another way to look at the map. There is a profound relief in being small. For centuries we were told we were the centre of everything. We were told that the stars were lanterns hung for our benefit. We believed the movements of the planets were a clock ticking towards some human destiny. That is a heavy burden. To be the centre of the universe is to be responsible for it. It is to carry the weight of cosmic significance on shoulders made of calcium and water. The LAM-SEDEM model removes that weight. It tells us that we are not the protagonists of the vacuum. We are an accident of chemistry occurring on a minor arm of a standard spiral galaxy. We live in a local group that is itself just one grain of sand in a sea of billions. We are infinitesimally small. And in that smallness there is liberation. If the universe is 13.8 billion years old, then our entire history is a flicker. Every war, every empire, every heartbreak, and every discovery is just a spark from a campfire. It lasts for a fraction of a second before the wind takes it. When you realize that your life does not have to be cosmically significant to be meaningful, the pressure vanishes. You do not have to solve the mystery of the dark energy. You do not have to bridge the gap between the particle horizon and the event horizon. You do not have to hold the expansion of space together with your will. The universe is managing itself quite well without our help. It has been expanding for billions of years. It knows how to breathe. It knows how to cool. It knows how to drift. We are simply here to witness it. Think of the scale again. The vast, accelerating distances. The galaxies receding into the distance like ships leaving a harbour at midnight. Most people feel a sense of dread when they imagine this. They feel the cold. They feel the silence. But listen to the silence differently. The silence is not an absence. It is a permission. It is the permission to stop striving, to stop measuring, to stop trying to conquer the distance. We are small enough that our mistakes are invisible to the stars. We are small enough that our anxieties are irrelevant to the vacuum. The great expanding dark does not demand anything from us. It does not ask for our loyalty or our understanding or our fear. It only asks that we exist within it for a little while. We are made of the same elements that were forged in those first few billion years. The iron in your blood was cooked in the heart of a star. That star died long before the earth was even a cloud of dust. The calcium in your teeth is a remnant of a supernova. It tore through a different sector of the Orion arm, eons ago. You are not a stranger in this universe. You are a piece of it that has woken up and started asking questions. The LAM. They. SEDEM model describes the architecture of our home. It is a home that is growing larger every second. It is a house with rooms that are moving away from each other at speeds we cannot comprehend. It is an odd way to live, perhaps, to reside in a structure that is constantly dismantling its own connections. But there is a peace in the drift. When you stop fighting the scale, you can start to enjoy the view. You can look at the night sky and see not a void, but a sequence, a long, slow exhale of energy and matter, unfolding according to laws that are patient and absolute. The universe is not rushing toward an end. It is simply settling. It is moving from the noise of the beginning toward the stillness of the finish, and we are caught in the middle. We are in the warm, golden era, where there is still enough light to see and enough time to wonder. We do not need to be significant. We only need to be present. Let the scale recede. Leave the event horizons and the dark energy behind. Let the superclusters blur into a single distant glow. We are coming back now. We are descending the ladder we climbed, one rung at a time, past the void of the local group, past the Oryon arm, back through the magnetic highway where the voyagers still drift in the cold, back inside the bubble of our sun, back to the blue marble, and then further, past the clouds, past the atmosphere, down to the specific patch of earth where you are resting. Feel the weight of your body against the mattress, the way the fabric of a blanket pulls across your shoulders, the specific heavy warmth of wool or cotton. These are small things. They are tactile things. They are the only things that truly matter in this moment. Listen to the room. Perhaps there is the low hum of a heater, the distant rhythm of traffic on a far-off street, the sound of your own breath moving in and out, slow, steady. For a while we looked at the universe as a map. We traced the lines of light that have travelled for billions of years just to reach a lens on a mountain top. We thought about the administrative inconvenience of space expanding faster than we can ever hope to travel. It is easy to feel a kind of vertigo when you realize that most of the stars you see are already ghosts, that the light is an old letter arriving long after the sender has vanished. But that vertigo is a luxury. It is a thought for a wide-awake mind. Now the mind can narrow. The universe is vast, yes. It is incomprehensibly large. But you do not have to carry it. You do not have to hold the weight of 13 billion years in your head while you try to sleep. There is a peculiar comfort in being small. When we are small, the burden of significance vanishes. We do not have to steer the galaxies. We do not have to solve the mystery of the cosmological constant, or worry about the eventual cooling of every star in the sky. Those things are happening. They have been happening since the first second of time. They do not require your permission. They do not require your understanding. The universe is a machine of immense and terrifying precision. But it is also a machine that manages itself. The orbits hold. The light travels. The vacuum expands. It has been doing this for an eternity, and it will continue to do so long after the last candle in this room goes out. You are allowed to let go. You can stop trying to conceptualize the infinite. You can stop trying to fit the diameter of the observable universe into a human brain. A brain designed to find berries in a forest and recognize the faces of friends. Your brain is not failing you when it cannot grasp a jig, our light year. It is simply reminding you where you belong. You belong here, in the stillness, in the dark, in the quiet safety of a room that does not move. Think of the distance between the earth and the moon. Remember how we could fit every planet in our solar system into that gap. Jupiter, Saturn, the frozen wastes of Neptune, all of them squeezed into a silence we can barely imagine. Now think of the distance between your thoughts. Let the space between them grow. Let the gaps become wider. Let the images of nebulae and black holes drift away like smoke in a breeze. They are beautiful, but they are far, and you are here. The air in the room is cool. The pillow is soft. Your eyelids are heavy. There is no urgency left. There is no problem that cannot wait until the sun returns to your window. The stars will still be there tomorrow. The galaxies will still be receding. The event horizon will still be marking the boundary of what we can ever know. None of it is asking anything of you. The universe does not need you to witness it in order to exist. It does not need you to calculate its age or map its arms. It is content to be vast and silent and indifferent. And in that indifference there is a profound kind of peace. You are a small point of consciousness in a very large dark. But you are a warm point. You are a breathing point. You are safe. Let your muscles loosen. Let the tension leave your jaw. Let your shoulders sink deeper into the bed. The scale has returned to the human level. The world is now only as large as the reach of your arms. It is as small as the sound of a clock ticking on a bedside table. It is as simple as the rise and fall of your chest. We have travelled far tonight. We have crossed the H.E.E. Lee. Oh, pause and looked into the heart of the L.A.M. Da. S.E.E.E. D.E.M. Model. We have seen the universe as a long, slow exhale. Now it is your turn to exhale. Release the numbers. Release the dates. Release the maps. There is no need to hold the whole universe in your mind at once. It has been managing itself quite well for some time. It will continue to manage itself while you sleep. The planets will keep their circles. The light will keep its pace. The dark energy will keep pushing the edges of everything further and further away, creating more room for silence. You can trust the silence. You can lean into it. The room is still, the night is deep, and you are exactly where you need to be. Just stay here, in the warmth, in the quiet. Let the rest of it fade, fade, until there is nothing left but the breath, and the stillness, and the sleep.